You are listening to an Indeed audio theatrical performance.
I open my eyes, roll over onto my back, and stare at the ceiling. This movement on my part set off the motion detectors, and the lights have come on. I lay there and consider getting up. The lights in the office dim for a second. The brownouts are happening almost daily now. If they don't resolve the power issue soon, things will get real interesting around here. The office automation AI senses my change in breathing and heart rate, and after checking the time, determines I am awake and planning to stay that way. As a result, the thermal units start up and the audio feed kicks on.
The Jupiter Meteor Defense Grid warded off a small shower last night, and it was quite a show. Unfortunately, it happened on the light side of Ganymede, and was not visible to the naked eye due to the three-moon confluence now in full swing. The United Colony Space Administration does not predict any substantial meteor activity in the next few weeks. In political news, Dome 6 manager Cy Miller held a press conference today, whereas he announced his intention to run for governor of Ganymede on the Workers' Party ticket.
It is about time for the working man to take back the direction of this colony. The Jupiter corporate executives and Earth administrators have far too much power and say over the future of Ganymede colony. They do not live down here, they don't plan to live down here, and we want our voices back.
Wow, powerful stuff. Let's head over to Helen for the weather.
Thanks, John. All 9 Terradomes report stable atmospheric conditions with the exception of Terradome 3. Minor damage from that unfortunate reactor failure has still got the scrubbers running at 80%. Mandatory evacuation to the emergency sections of Dome 2 and 4 will remain in effect for another week while repairs are ongoing. Sorry to ruin your weekend, folks. What might make it a little more bearable is some good news from the sports desk. Sounds like the Dome 9 Rockets have a real shot at
Human news feeds have sounded the same for 500 years. Politics, weather, and sports. Without the names, you wouldn't be able to tell what year the feed was from, let alone the century. I get up from my couch and shuffle to the coffee machine, take out the filter, and look at the old grounds, trying to decide if I should dump them or run them again. Let me tell you, electricity isn't the only thing that's weak around here. Check the supply of coffee and see that for once, we seem to have enough to justify putting a whole new batch of grounds in the machine. Supply shipment must have come and Annie had hit the depot for supplies in time to get some new coffee. No matter how much the agency sends, it is never enough. Among many other things, my sweet Annie has impeccable timing for that kind of thing. And that's good. A real cup of coffee is what I need today. Heaven knows a hit of scotch. I have to stop myself there. I say my serenity prayer and concentrate for a minute. Can't show the booze any weakness or it'll worm its way into my thinking and eventually into my mouth. No one wants that. The sign on the door of my office says Henry Brick, P.I., but anyone that knows me calls me Brick. Unless they really know me, then it usually degenerates into less flattering designations. Yeah, it sounds like a tough name. A guy with a name like Brick should be a thick, tough bruiser. Sorry to disappoint.
You're listening to Good Morning Ganymede with John Sparks and Helen Harrison on Earth on the Soul Radio Network.
Are you suffering from the doldrums? Lack of energy really get you down? Then try Doc Swanson's Cure All Beer all the way from Earth here on Ganymede.
It's early, just after 6. Slept on the crappy couch in my office again last night. No reason. No reason to go back to my crappy little apartment either. I have everything I need right here. The window in my office lets in some natural light. Well, natural for this place anyway. Terradome 7, Ganymede Colony, Jupiter Project. Don't get too excited. Space settlement hasn't exactly lived up to the hype. Captain Kirk would be very disappointed. From my window, I can see Io and Europa. The light from the sun and the light bouncing off of Jupiter light them up to almost full. Of course, it is bouncing off of Jupiter and lighting up Ganymede, too. It's rarely ever dark here on Ganymede. We live in varying levels of twilight from bile yellow to weak tea brown. I reach over and turn on the UV light next to the coffee machine. Human can't live without UV, after all. Aside from the physiology, space crazy ain't just a fad, and I doubt I can afford to be any more crazy. I hear tell that on Earth the UV is so strong it can actually burn you. Lucky Earthlings have to use chems or clothing to protect themselves from solar UV. I wouldn't know. A Ganny like me has never been to Earth nor felt the searing power of the concentrated UV of the faraway sun. Hell, no one on this godforsaken rock has been. Even the good governor was born on Ganymede. Not that he'd like to be reminded of that. Been nearly 200 years since the first actual settlement started here in 2275. Terradome 1. Over 150 years since that last Earthborn got dropped here. Today is March 21st, 2466. My birthday. That's me, Henry Brick. 39, dead broke, or close enough, and a pale, skinny, Ganny, born and bred. The light dims again, but the brief power dip doesn't stop the bell from ringing on the reception door.
Welcome, visitor. Unknown. Thank you for calling on the Henry Brick Detective Agency. We are currently closed. Please return during normal business hours of...
Whenever Brick gets his lazy no-good behind out of bed and gets into the office.
And 7 p.m. Or please call again, and we can be reached at wireless 5418-9633.
Nice touch, Annie. She's pissed at me again. I don't know why this time, but I'm sure she will tell me in agonizing detail when I see her later. I looked at the clock again just to make sure I read it right the first time. Yep, it's 6:25 a.m., all right. Who could be ringing my bell at this ungodly hour? Annie may be good at shopping and easy on the eyes, but an early riser she was not, regardless of her unflattering message. Besides, unless her hands were full from a shopping spree at 6 a.m., she had an RF key that would open the door for her. I head toward the door, anticipating an error or an early morning prank. For the heck of it, I take a look at the stand mirror Annie keeps by her desk. 6'3", pale as a ghost, sporting the righteous fro common among Gannies. The hairstyle, that is, not the ruddy red color. 75% Earth gravity has given Gannies above average human height, but played heck with human hair. I was still in my rumpled clothes, and I still had a red mark on my face from the seam in the sofa. I am a sight for sure. I smile at the creature in the mirror. Aren't you the consummate professional? I give myself double thumbs up to go with it. Yeah, mumble on my way to the front door. Only now do I realize I am missing a shoe. Maybe sleeping at the office isn't as good as sleeping in an honest-to-goodness bed. I seem out of sorts, or at least more so than normal. I turn back to retrieve my footwear. The last thing anyone needs is to see my gnarly feet. I bend over to look under the couch, and that decision probably saved my life. I may be half asleep, but in the immortal, if slightly abridged words of Sergeant Tom Highway, "That was a railgun, the preferred weapon of chicken crap lowlifes. It makes a distinctive sound when fired at you. Remember it." Don't worry, Gunny. I remember it. I don't need an engraved invitation. I hit the floor. I'm not armed, for Pete's sake. I just rolled out of the rack and haven't even had my coffee. I hear something dripping. One of the rail projectiles went straight through my coffee cup sitting on the counter and into the pot on the machine. For the love of all that is holy, it hit the vacuum seal bag of grounds, too. All that precious and potential elixir of AM glory wasted. That's it. Now I'm pissed.
We'll be back with this morning roundup after this commercial break.
Cocoa Joints are fun to eat with some milk. Get up and off your feet, eat some more today. Eat some more today, eat some more today. Cocoa Joints are fun to eat some more.
I'd love to. In fact, I promise I will eat a whole box of Cocoa Droids if I live that long. I'm on the floor, half in my office and half in the reception room. There are 3 perfect holes in my front door, just about shoulder height. From where I am laying, I can see the loaded 3-barrel Annie keeps holstered under the center drawer of her desk. I shimmy like a drunken lizard under her desk. The desk is simwood, heavy and comforting, even if that feeling is a big fat lie. A handheld railgun has exactly 5 shots per fusion bat, and the projectiles move at roughly 3 times the speed of sound given Ganymede's gravity and the atmospheric conditions inside a terradome. At that speed, a projectile can penetrate just about anything, simwood included. I check the 3-barrel. It's loaded, but loaded with what is the question? Annie is a sweet thing, but has no sense of humor when people shoot at her. These could be flechette rounds, exploding rounds, shrapnel rounds, God knows what rounds, or any combination thereof. There's one more hole in my door and another in my floor. If I hadn't shimmied over to the desk, that shot would have made an artistic carpet of blood and brain matter for Annie to clean up. My office is on the 3rd floor. I sure hope no one is an eager beaver this morning and came in early to work in the offices below. I know a couple of those folks. I don't like them at all. But I don't not like them enough to want them splattered by a rail projectile as a reward for coming into work at 6:25 in the blessed a.m. I crook an arm up onto Annie's desk and flail around for anything solid. I find a coffee cup. It seems I have a theme going today. Doomed and unused coffee paraphernalia and supplies. I could open a store. Henry Bricks, doomed and unused coffee paraphernalia and supply. Better chance of not getting shot at in that line of work. Well, maybe. With an Academy Award-winning performance, I make a death noise worthy of the great ones of ancient Hollywood while simultaneously hurling Annie's coffee mug across the room. It seems to work. There is one last blast from the railgun, this time blowing the lock off my office door. The aforementioned chicken crap lowlife pushes open my office door and walks into the reception room. Can't wait to meet this guy, but I want to shoot him more than I want to meet him. After all, he shot my coffee. I snake the 3-barrel around the corner of the desk and pull the trigger. All 3 rounds go off at once. A 3-barrel is a single-shot 3-barrel shotgun. Annie, of course, had it cut down to lady's size and mounted in a recoil harness, which makes a lot of sense. I apparently have no sense, because I removed it from that recoil harness and tried to fire it like a cowboy. With 3 shotgun shells going off at once, you should expect recoil, and a lot of it. I may be skinny and unpopular, but I am keenly aware of the destructive firepower of weapons of many sorts. I did expect a ton of recoil, especially considering how I was holding it, but I wasn't expecting the extreme amount of recoil that I experienced. It all but ripped my arm off, nor did I expect the fireball. I hear the sound of something heavy hitting the floor, which was presumably my coffee-killing chicken crap lowlife too damn early in the a.m. for this level of animosity visitor. Combine that with the smell of burning chemicals and burnt hair, and it made me feel pretty certain I could peek out without unappreciated violence being done to my person. The wall was blackened, and the corners of the reception area chairs were smoking. Fortunately, the fireball round was not enough to overcome the fire retardant built into the sim materials that the walls and furniture was built from, and there was a somewhat comical outline of my coffee-killing friend not burnt into the blackened wall, telling me that the fireball caught him as much by surprise as it caught me. There were flechette blades stuck in the wall, and I could see from the blood spreading across the floor, stuck into my visitor as well. Apparently, the other 2 rounds were both serrated flechette blades. Thank you, sweet Annie. The office AI is not impressed with the exchange of gunplay.
Danger, fire, emergency services have been alerted. Detected serious injury to visitor, unknown.
Thanks for the update. And thanks for calling the uniforms. I'm having a bad morning. I didn't waste any time with life-saving measures on the coffee assassin, and got my tall, skinny butt back into my office and grabbed my Ruger 45 automatic. Old school, I know, but I'm that kind of guy. The thing was older than the Ganymede colony, and I had my doubts as to whether any of the parts were original. Nano-manufactured sim metal parts had replaced all of the original manufacturer parts a long time ago. It was the same gun that had been built on Earth 4 centuries ago in name only. Right now, I wasn't worried about its collectability. All I cared about was that it worked fine. Drawing a bead on my coffee-killing friend, I walked, 1 shoe and all, over to his smoking body. I put the foot that had been so kind as to lose a shoe and save my life on the railgun and scooted it away. Rolling him over, I saw the source of the blood. A flechette had entered his right temple and was protruding about halfway out of the left side of his skull, right behind the eye. Even with that, I could recognize his face. And so my morning got worse. A lot worse. It was Rick Hansen. Officer Rick Hansen of Dome 7 Security. Now I really wanted that scotch.
Brick was written by Andrew Vanderbeek with voices from Kerry Dykstra as Brick and Bonnie Milius as Annie. Additional voice provided by Christopher Morton, Serene Kowaliday, and Wayne Adams. All content, characters, and story are property of their creator, Andrew Vanderbeek.